Another great feature that PHP has on the command line is since PHP 5.4, we have a built-in web server. So you can spin up a web server, just a way of serving PHP from the command line very, very easily. There are some limitations with this. It's really only designed for development use. So it won't serve multiple requests at one time. You are not going to deploy this to production. However, it's a very easy way to just have a check on, in a particular web route, what is this tool? How is it working? How does this site look? Without necessarily needing to set up a whole new virtual host or whatever fits in with your usual development configuration. So let me show you how to do it. It's PHP, this is a -S to set up the web server. There's a few things that you can pass here, but basically all you need to do is specify the server and port that this is going to be available on. For me, I'm going to set this to localhost 8080, and that just allows me to make a request to this particular local host. Index.php in this directory just echoes hello there, so that's what we see in the browser. The web server, as it runs on the command line, you can see here it's starting to give some output. If I request a page that doesn't exist, you'll see the error logs here. So if we ask for the page nonsense.php, well, that doesn't exist. So the web server sends us a sort of generic 404 not found. And if you look back at your command line, you can see the 404 comes up with a yellow error. So your error logs are in line, and if you get any PHP errors, you'll see them here. One thing to notice is that if you have a fatal error, PHP will exit, causes your web server to exit as well. So you may find that you need to run the web server under some kind of supervision. I like Supervisor D. This is a tool which will watch your script, and if it stops, it will ask it to restart. So you can configure that really nicely. A few other things you need to know about the PHP web server then. It's very common, particularly with the modern frameworks, to set up an htaccess or equivalent for your web server, which does a rewrite. So all of the incoming requests, unless it's a request to a valid, say, asset file, an index file, a CSS file, something like that. Otherwise, we rewrite everything to index.php, and in index.php, we pass the URL of the request, and we work out what the user was actually asking for. We bootstrap our framework in a front controller, and then we route off to wherever we're going. It's a really common pattern. However, of course, the PHP web server won't observe your .htaccess file. However, we can work around that. If you have a look at my routing file here, this is the equivalent of those lines that you normally have in htaccess, saying if the file exists, serve it, otherwise rewrite to index.php, that's the last redirect. This is the equivalent file. So routing.php looks like this, and to implement it, all you need to do is, when you run the web server, so if I run the same command again, pass the -c flag here. No, that's for configuration. Pass the routing file as the last argument. So that will first of all hit the routing file, and the routing file gives the instruction of which PHP to run. Now if I request the index.php, the nonsense.php file, it will redirect to index.php. Nonsense.php doesn't exist, so the routing.php rewrites it back to index.php, which just echoes the hello there. You saw the -c switch there. You can use that to specify a php.ini file, which the web server should use. If you don't specify, you get the PHP built-in language defaults. It doesn't use a default ini file if there isn't one supplied, so that can be a bit strange. PHP ships with a php.ini-development, and I'd recommend that you use that with your if you're using the command line web server. One more thing you need to know about the web server: you can supply -t and the path to the document route. So if you are running this command from supervisor or cron or something else, you won't necessarily just be running php-s in the same directory. The -t specifies where the web root is, so you can wrap that very easily inside one of those supervisor type of processes. Can be quite useful. So PHP Web Server, development use only, available since PHP 5.4, and it's a super useful tool.